The mid-90s was a time of great change in metal and rock music, and one band that was at the center of that was the Deftones. So when I met with Chino Moreno outside the Molson Amphitheater in Toronto in 2010, I asked him what was going on back then. And even though I don't think we really figured it out, one thing we did agree on is Faith No More are kings.
Speeding.
Okay, Chino Moreno, take two. Take me back to around the time when you guys put out your first record, and what was the music scene like at that time?
First record of ours was Adrenaline. It was 1995. We had been a band already for really since '88 when we first started in the garage as kids. You know, the music scene at '95 was, well, we're from Sacramento, which is Northern California, but it's close to like the Bay Area, San Francisco. So a lot of what was going on in the Bay Area, you know, Oakland, and, you know, Berkeley, just that whole area, we were influenced by, which bands like at the time, like, well, obviously Metallica is from there, but like Faith No More, for instance. There was a lot of like funk influence, you know, from there too, which to us was kind of, you know, our early roots, I think, musically come from a lot of different places, but one of the things that really is like rhythm-driven, you know, music. As far as like we always looked at making riffs or whatever we're making that had like you could nod your head to it, had, you know, beat, pulse to it, and that's from listening, I think, like to early rap music and whatever.
Why was it exciting for you guys?
Well, for me, I think it was natural. I think for us, I mean, we grew up kind of in a I guess you'd call it the hood, whatever, and that's all the music we were surrounded by, just beats. At that time, it was you know, the late '80s or, you know, mid '80s as a kid, and you know, everybody's cars driving by just bassing and bumping, and rhythm was a big part of what we did. So for me, I was introduced to metal really in getting into this band, and Stefan, our guitar player, he's really, you know, he was one of the major writing, you know, forces in the band, obviously at that point, and so his roots were metal, you know. But I would take little parts of his riff. Say he'd have like a, you know, a riff, but you know, he'd do something and it'd have some rhythm to it where I could feel like it could bounce and hop, and you know, that's how we'd craft the songs. We'd just make all these little parts, these little rhythmic parts, and mesh them together into songs, you know. And then I started to learn how to sing, and I'd kind of sing, you know, all in and out of them, and you know.
And obviously, I mean, around that time, you guys were kind of on the crest, I think, of something new. You know, Korn, I guess, was another California band that was also combining heaviness with rhythm and that hip hop thing.
But to me, I still think, you know, Faith No More was probably the original. I mean, Primus, even, you know, bands that were like, you know, really kind of rhythm oriented, you know, that really started that. Especially like with Patton singing as well as percussive singing, you know, and a lot of that, you know, I think Korn is influenced by as well, you know. Yeah.
Besides Patton, who were your other big vocal influences?
HR from the Bad Brains is a big influence. I mean, he's another person who has his own thing that, you know, but very rhythmic, and, you know, a lot of soul, and shoot, there's a lot. I mean, I grew up listening to Morrissey. So singing wise and lyric wise, I mean, like, he was a big influence. As a kid, I used to like stand in my backyard with the mop and sing, you know, like I was throwing a concert, and I'd pretend like I was Morrissey, throw my shirt off, you know, to nobody. But I don't know. I mean, I always was intrigued by what he did. I don't know, there's a lot of different, you know, Michael Jackson. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Prince. Right. Just a lot of different style, you know, different stuff.
And so into the late '90s, when you guys were really gaining momentum, and other bands like Korn and you know, bands like Papa Roach and other bands combining these sounds, did you feel the sense that you were part of something new, like a movement?
A lot of the press wanted us to, you know, obviously they put us in the category, and our first instinct was just to kind of push it away, you know, because to me it was like, when they called it new metal, for one, I was like, well, if it's new, you're putting the word new in it, it's going to be old, like, you know, in a couple years, and then again, it's hard for us to get you know, you look at these other bands, and, you know, there's some great bands in that I guess in that movement or whatever it was, but each to each was his own, you know what I mean? I always felt like we were our own kind of thing, and we weren't put together under any kind of preconceived thoughts of what we were going to be. We just are who we are. So I wanted to be Deftones. I didn't want to be, you know, a part of all this other thing, you know what I mean? So
And obviously one band that really took off at that time was Limp Bizkit. I mean, they were selling multi-million records. I mean, how do you feel about kind of being part of the same movement or categorized with those
Well, I
guys?
used to hate it, you know. I think people were going to do it anyways, but you know what I mean? But I used to like, yeah, I used to, we did a lot, you know, and I think we hurt a lot of feelings in the meantime because, like, you know, we turned down so much stuff with Korn and with Limp Bizkit at the time. I don't think a lot of people knew that, but, like, you know, they're our friends. Obviously, we've known them for a lot of years, and they'd ask us, hey, you want to go on tour? And I'd be like, nah, you know, and you know, and they'd be like, you know, and it wasn't because we thought we were better, but it's just that we wanted to, you know, especially, for instance, when our record first came out, the Adrenaline came out, Korn's first record was already out for like a year, I think, whatever, right? So people were calling us like baby Korn when we first came out, you know what I mean? And I was like boggled by that, you know what I mean? And right away, you know, that made me just like want to separate myself even from them more, you know? So it was kind of tough back then. Now I don't really care, whatever.
Yeah. Because the bizarre thing, of course, is a band like Limp Bizkit kind of became darlings of MTV, right? Like you couldn't avoid, you know, Nookie. Whereas you guys who were kind of like this leader back in the day.
Well, here's another story. I remember we got asked to do this spring break thing, and it was like a spring break, some MTV spring break thing, I think, whatever. And we declined it. We were like, at that time, we were like, I think Around the Fur was out for a minute, and we turned it down. We were just like, no, we don't want to be like we're not really a spring break band, I guess, whatever. And Limp Bizkit ended up doing it, and that's when they, you know, and I remember watching it, and then I remember like the weeks and months following them just like exploding, you know, onto the scene. I remember just going like, all right, well, you know, what do you do?
With White Pony, I mean, I remember reading something where I think you talked about how the label started to have more expectations of you guys around having a single and kind of pushing you in that direction with that record. Can you tell me about that? I mean, what was how was the label getting involved in what you guys were doing?
Well, when we did the White Pony record, for instance, you know, they didn't have at that time the record company didn't have any say about what music we made. I mean, up until that point, I guess we would make a record, we'd finish it, record it, we'd give it to them, and they would put it out. And that's how we did with White Pony. And what happened was they you know, they released that record, and then 4 months or 6 months down the road, they said, well, you don't have another single on it, so they asked us they wanted us to rewrite one of the songs on the record and do like more of a rap, you know, esque, or like, you know, something a little bit more like Limp Bizkit, i.e. Papa Roach, and whatever. And right away we were like, no, you know what I mean, why would we do that? You know what I mean, there's all these other songs on the record, like work, that's what, you know, you guys are here to do, is like, you know, get behind it, put it out, and it is what it is. And I already felt when we made that record, we kind of made a stance that we were, you know, going a little bit left of, you know, that direction. But we ended up getting talked into it, and we ended up, and it was kind of a thing where, like, you know, I wanted to kind of show them how easy it would be to like write a simple, like, you know, rap verse, you know, chorus song, whatever, blah, blah. So I went in and one day rewrote the song, recorded it, gave it to them, and said, okay, said here. See, you know, like it's nothing. There's nothing to this. It's not really any substance here. But I didn't dislike the song. I didn't hate it, whatever. But like, okay, well, we're gonna release the record, put this on it. We're gonna give you guys $1 million to film this video with Paul Hunter, who, you know, is doing Eminem and Britney Spears videos, and here you go. This is your guys' chance to blow up. So we just said at that point, you know, our record was already about 6 months. Either we're gonna do that, or they were not gonna market our record anymore. So we just said, okay, did it, and they re-released the record with the song on it. We shot the video. And we did everything, and it, you know, was, I can tell, like, from a lot of the fans, you know, the hardcore fans, they were like, why would you do that, you know, whatever. And it's like, so we kind of had to, you know, I guess explain why or whatever. But, you know, that's one of those things where, you know, you make a decision, and, you know, that's what it is.